time when the tribe of Israel had been taken captive by a Pharaoh who was cruel and merciless. His family had chosen this group of people to become slaves. They took them, they captivated them, they beat them, they put them to work. They were building blocks of clay, bricks out of nothing but mud and straw. And for 400 years, 10 generations, God never spoke a word. He was silent. Then one day, a guy who had been kind of brought about as one of the sons of Pharaoh, a guy by the name of Moses, whose life had been spared, he killed someone one day. Moses, a murderer, ran for his life, even though he was the son of Pharaoh. 40 years, he's out in the wilderness, and one day, the burning bush comes, and the voice of God emanates and speaks from that fiery burning bush. Moses said, "This is hallowed ground. This is precious. This is a place." And God spoke to him and said, "I want to use you to deliver all of my people." And he said, "How can I do that? I can't even go back in my life. They want me." And God said, "I'm going to show you how to do it." And every day, Moses began to commune with God, and he realized that God had something special for him. And he went back, and of course, we know the story. Moses went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, "No, I'm not going to let these people go because they're going to build these bricks." Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. How many of you have a house or know about the soil in our North Texas area? It's built all on clay, and you don't have to go very deep in the ground to find it. It's not very far down. And it's that yucky kind of clay. I mean, when it gets in there and you walk in it with your shoes, it's going to suck your shoe right back into it because it's not forgiving at all. Now, I want you to think about trying to build bricks out of that stuff, stomping around in your feet. How many of you ever had a facial? Guys included. Mm-hmm. And they put that little mud pack on your face. What's that for? To pull all the oils out of your face, isn't it? I want you to think spending every day of your life in mud up to your knees, trogging around, pushing clay, sod, and soil together to build bricks. Millions of people doing this. To build bricks for a Pharaoh who would do nothing but want to kill them. Pharaoh said, "Listen, I don't have a workforce like this. I'm not going to let these people go. You're out of your gourd, Moses." And of course, we know that God began to judge all of the gods of Egypt, and one by one, all the way down to the last child, God brought about the deliverance, and we know that. He brought about the deliverance, and when they left, they took all the spoils of Egypt. I think that's wonderful. You know, out of the very worst place in their lives, God crowned them with every rich thing that was on earth. All the gold, all the silver, all the jewels was theirs. When they left Egypt, they were weighted down with the wealth of Egypt. And we know that right at the end, you know, the waters are parted and they're running across, and here come the Egyptians, and we've seen, you know, the Ten Commandments and all that, and all the Egyptians are coming after the walls of water up there, and then they get to the other side and the walls of water collapse. Even those that would try to stop them were destroyed because God wanted them delivered. He wanted them delivered. He was going way out there to make sure that they were all delivered. Now, they've been in bondage for 400 years. God hadn't spoken. Now he's speaking, and now they're delivered. They've got all the wealth of Egypt. What more could you possibly want? The first thing they wanted was water. And you know, Tim, you're right. They got out there and realized, what have we done? We have left a good job. We've left a good job. We've left someone who provides for us, feeds us junk, feeds us, waters us, has provided a place for us to put our heads at night. Why would we ever want to leave Egypt? They wanted to go back. What I think was interesting is, if you've ever walked around in clay day after 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 day, 40 years, 100 years, 400 years, your feet, because of no moisture, begin to crack open. And there were parasites living in Egypt at that time in the Nile River, and those parasites got into the bodies of all of those people, and they were dying from amoebic issues. And God brought them by a place of water. And they began to drink. And the drink was bitter. It was terrible. It had this taste because it had a chemical in it that God was going to use to get rid of all the parasites on the inside of them. Because he said, you know what? I want to be the Lord God that heals you. Every part of you. And he started from within. Because he wanted to put them in a place that was glorious. And he didn't want them constantly fighting old things that were from the old part of their life. He wanted them set free so that they could enjoy all the blessings and the new promised land. He was preparing them inside and out for a glorious entry to a place that he had prepared for them. The problem was, they wanted to go back to Egypt. Because in their mind's eye, 400 years, that trough of the old way had become very ingrained. And that's all they could think about was the old way. They couldn't think about anything new. The problem was, God didn't want them going back. Exodus 20, verse 2, it says, I am the Lord your God who has brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I am that God who came to deliver you. I'm that God. I am that God. God was doing something for them that they could not do themselves. He was providing a wonderful new freedom for them. The problem was it required a change in their thinking. Required a change in the way that they would do business. They had to start looking to God, Jehovah, versus the God Pharaoh. And you know, when you see somebody tangibly there in front of you, it's easier to believe that than it is to believe some unknown thing that hadn't spoken to you in 400 years and now suddenly speaks out of this burning bush. Something supernatural. It's easier to believe a physical voice. God brought miracles to say, you know what, I'll show you who's boss. In Deuteronomy 30, one of the books of Moses, verse 19, it says, this day I call heaven and earth to witness against you that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curses. And God says, now choose life, so that you and your children may live, that you may love the Lord your God, listen to his voice, and hold fast to him. You know, each one of us can hear God, whether we think we do or not. God speaks every single day. He's like Channel 8. He's broadcasting 24 hours a day. But you know, there is a requirement of that. You have to have your set turned on and tuned to Channel 8. You have to be willing to say, I want to listen, and I'm going to put myself in a position to hear from God. Now, you can have all kinds of clever things going on around in your head, but I guarantee you, until you get all of those voices out where you can hear clearly from God, he will speak to you, but you have to give an ear to that still, small voice. People will do just about anything to be liked, won't they? I mean, people will do crazy things. I put my life in jeopardy, I can't tell you how many times, to be liked by these people. But the moment that I stepped out of that arena and gave up who I was of no value to them. Because I suddenly became unlikable. They didn't like something that I was. And it hurt incredibly beyond words. To sensibly be alive one moment and the very next day, every element of your existence to be erased in these people's eyes. The people that I used to have to screen their calls, I couldn't get to take mine. I thought it was interesting in the USA Today, it said, what tempts men and women? And out of a survey of 3,000 U.S. adults, they identified the differences and the similarities between what men and women say tempts them the most. Sex. Men, 50%. That's not nearly way out of that picture, is it? Men are tempted. I mean, they are. That's who they are. They are the dogs that people think that they are. It's true. I mean, I'm not speaking out of school. Renee's up there smiling at me. Renee, you're tempted every once in a while, aren't you? I mean, you see a pretty guy and you go, wow. I mean, boing, the eyes go like this, you know. Ernie's not laughing up there at all. Okay, now. That's because Chris is sitting next to him. Okay. Sex, 50% for men, 22% for women. 22%. See, gals, you got an eye. Food, men, 29%. Women, uh-oh, here goes. 56%. Get out of the refrigerator. Have that little cow, oh, you know, the little pig in the grocery in the thing. Money, oh, men, 14%. Women, 15%. Alcohol, men, 7%. Women, 2%. Power, men, 2%. This is out of a study that USA Today. I didn't do this. Men are only tempted by power, 2%. Women, 7%. Lies. Listen, we're praying for you, Brittany. Yeah, no. I mean, they're very specific in their things. I thought it was interesting when they did this study, they also extended a study to age groups. Addiction. This is a study that they did in 2008. 5 million participated in 2008 that they queried on a 12-step addiction program. Excuse me. Participants by age. 12 to 7. I'm okay, Kathy. 12 to 17. 12 to 17-year-olds. 12 to 17-year-olds. How old is he? How's Kenny? 15. 12 to 17. 5% of that 5 million. Think about that number, folks. We're already in a 12-step program for addiction and addictive behaviors. 18 to 25, 15%. How many of you would fit in the category 18 to 25 in this church? Let me see your hands. Hands, 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 hands. Big hands. Okay. How many are in the age group 26 to 49? 57% of that 5,000 were in the 26 to 49 category. Over 50, 23%. Here are some of the addictive things that we will do in order to be accepted by people. You probably already know them. But these addictive behaviors cost money, they cost personal relationships, and they cost you socially. Alcohol, illicit drugs, sex, gambling, tobacco products, pornography, work, alcoholism, food, TV,